Hey everyone, it's Russ, and welcome to another episode of Women's Retirement Radio. Today, I am super excited to have a friend and a local realtor on the phone with us. This is Tara Winslow. Hey Tara, how are you doing today?
Hey, Russ. Thanks for having me. Doing great.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Tara, you and I have had the benefit of getting to know each other a little bit over the last few years. And we kind of connected, I guess, based on a little shared history, having both gone to Furman.
Yeah.
But for those that don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah. I'm Tara Winslow with Winslow Home Professionals at Keller Williams, Peachtree Road in Brookhaven. And I run a residential real estate team. I'm also a graduate of Furman University, where you went to school, I know. And I've been in residential real estate for almost 10 years. Previous to that, I was in corporate America, where I sold technology to middle and large size businesses across the state of Georgia, as well as some across the country.
Got it.
So it was an interesting switch, and I have been thoroughly enjoying my time in real estate. And yeah, that's where I am right now.
Well, yeah, and exciting times in real estate right now too, which I'm sure we'll probably talk about here in a little bit.
Sure.
Was there a specific catalyst or anything that you can reflect on that kind of led you from technology sales into real estate, or was it just kind of ready for a change of pace or ready to do something different?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have always loved real estate, looking at properties, negotiating, and I loved negotiating when I was in corporate America, contracts. I think ultimately for me, I was really an entrepreneur, and I still am. And being able to run my own business the way that I see it running best was a huge change leaving corporate America. But I've really enjoyed what I'm doing and the change that I made. So I have not looked back.
Good for you. Well, I know you're busy and seem to be thriving. So it
Yes.
sounds like it was a great move, both personally and professionally. So I'm happy for you. And I know before we hit record, we were talking about you've actually got a personal move going on right now. So
I do.
Yeah, I appreciate you carving out a little time to talk to us in the midst of packing boxes and getting things organized to move from one home to another.
Right. Thank you. And, this has been a really great time right now, because being in the business, you sometimes forget the process, the nitty gritty process of moving and purchasing a house and selling the house that you're currently living in. And it's a process, and you want to do it right. And it does, bring on some stress.
Yeah, we haven't done it in a while personally, but I remember. So yeah, I know you probably have a dozen things you're juggling right now.
Right.
So tell us something. What's something interesting about you that maybe most people that know you wouldn't be aware of?
Okay. One of the interesting things is I'm a former athlete, and I love to be outside and exercise and get outdoors. And I ran my first and only marathon back in 2001. It was the Walt Disney Marathon, which I had heard it was the most fun. So I'm thinking, if I'm going to run 26.2 miles, then let's at least have some fun doing it. So that was my first and only marathon. I have done half marathons, and it's 20 years ago, and it really does seem like yesterday as I reminisce right this second. But I got my Mickey ears. They give you Mickey ears, or at least back then they did, a medal when you cross the finish line. And it was an extraordinary feeling of passing that finish line when I thought I was not going to get there. But I don't really talk about it. It's just so long ago. But a lot of people don't realize that I was, I guess, a marathon runner or a one-time marathon runner.
Wow, that's awesome. And you seem pretty clear about your once and only. So it doesn't sound like you're itching to run 26 miles again anytime soon.
I am not. It takes a lot of discipline and determination, and for me, it was a process. I'm process driven, I guess. And I joined a running group and I met them. You meet them every Saturday morning, rain or shine or sleet, whatever. And you stay on track and, it becomes a priority in your life to get through it. And I don't think I have the dedication for that anymore right now with running a business and having a 6-year-old. So it's just probably something I'm not going to do again.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you were an athlete. So what sports did you play in the past?
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer and tennis, and I love, my son just started playing soccer, a couple seasons ago. And it just brings back such great memories, just being out on the field when I was younger. So I played soccer and tennis really all the way up through high school and some in college. And then I played Alta tennis in Atlanta, probably until my early 30s. So we were at double A, went to city. And that's another, when you're disciplined about all that stuff, it takes a lot of time to go play tennis a couple of times a week. So,
Yeah.
But those are my main sports.
Got it. Well, thanks for sharing that. So I know that we already covered the fact that you're a realtor and you run your own residential real estate team there at Keller Williams in Brookhaven. And I would be shocked if anybody listening to this isn't familiar with kind of the role a realtor plays in residential real estate. But giving everyone the benefit of the doubt, why don't you kind of explain your work in as simple terms as possible? Think of it like you're explaining it to a 5-year-old, and maybe if there's anything you do unique that you offer or provide unique to your clients that they might not get maybe from another realtor or real estate professional, maybe you can address that as well.
Yeah. So my how I feel about real estate is I'm a tenacious realtor, and my job is to help my clients build wealth, and I do that through real estate. In simple terms, I handle all residential, which means condos, townhouses, single family homes in town and around the perimeter. And I work with buyers, sellers, and investors. Each person that becomes a client has their own personal goal. And in that discussion, in that initial consultation, we talk about what their goal is. And based on that goal, I meet them where they are and I take them where they want to go, however that looks for them. One of the things I think that sets me apart is with my corporate America background. I started in 1995 when I graduated from Furman, and I learned a lot about sales for over 12 years and how the process works, and having a sense of urgency. And sense of urgency right now in today's market it's really a skill. And if someone is not skilled in real estate right now, it's going to be a tough road for that buyer or seller. And I think that that's one of my best advantages that I bring to the table for any of my clients, is how I know how to get things done and negotiate on their behalf.
Yeah, and I think you sort of addressed this when you were just kind of explaining what it is you do and how you do it. But what would you say, Tara, is the biggest challenge that you help people address or solve through your work as a realtor?
The biggest challenge for me, it's about educating my client so that they are comfortable and confident in making decisions on their behalf. And maybe the challenge part is figuring out how much education and information one of my clients needs to make a decision. Some clients choose, not to have a lot of information and they move forward, and others need even more. And my customizable approach, I try to fit towards each client. And so sometimes that may be challenging because I have to feel out and really uncover what someone is looking to do. And sometimes clients don't necessarily have 100% clarity on the direction they want to go. And that will take a minute for us to kind of help them work that out and figure out what direction they want to go in. So I would say it's more of a complexity than a challenge. It's people are complex in their decision-making process.
Yeah, but I can see the challenge too, because for a lot of people, buying a home is maybe their largest financial transaction that they've ever entered into. Probably is for a lot of folks. So I can see that it being I can see the complexity side and the benefit of your willingness to kind of understand where the client is and where they want to go and how involved or engaged they want to be in the decision-making process. But I can also see it being a challenge for a lot of folks too, that it sounds like you do a wonderful job of helping to alleviate the anxiety and the financial concerns that are associated with buying a home. So
Definitely.
Yeah, I think that's great. So you've been a realtor for a decade plus now. You've worked probably with hundreds upon hundreds of clients over the years. What's a favorite client success story that kind of sticks out in your mind?
Wow. I like to think they're all success stories.
Of course.
And there are some stories that stand out a little bit more in my mind. I had this couple, they are recurring clients of mine, which is in my world what we always want for someone to want to use us again. And I believe they're on maybe their second or third house with me. And all along, the husband had been telling me about his mom really needing to sell her house for a number of reasons. And she was retired and was having a hard time maintaining the size of her house, and also had gotten herself into some credit card debt. And I could see I had 100% clarity on how I could help her. And we helped her build wealth through real estate, because once I could finally, it took many conversations, Russ, and it probably was about 2 years. And then she finally said, okay, Tara, I'm ready to sell my house. Here is all the information. This is where I'm at. And I'm like, wow. So the success was we were able to downsize her from her current house, pay off her loan, pay off her $40,000 in credit card debt, put her in a new home in a 55 plus community. And she owned the home free and clear. And she also was able to put a little over $40,000 in her bank account. And she had grandchildren. And I was just so excited for her, because I'm thinking, you went from not having any money for your grandchildren to now you have a little bit if you wanted to pass on to them, just from doing what she did. And she took control, and it took a lot of bravery. She was doing this on her own. Her family was with her, and so was I, but I knew it was a big deal for her to make that move. And to me, that is one of my huge success stories. And it was a lot. It was a lot for her, and it was a long process. And I'm very happy for her, because she helped herself, and now she's in a much better situation financially.
Yeah. Well, what a great story. And I imagine not just in a better situation financially, but also emotionally and mentally, and just not having the mortgage and the credit card debt hanging over her head. I mean, what a fantastic outcome for her. And something that really sticks out at me is, I think a lot of people mistakenly assume working with a realtor is very transactional. Like it's we start a dialogue, we find a home or whatever, we sell it, and that's it. But I mean, in this instance, you said that process took 2 years, I think you said?
It did from the beginning, from when I met with her, because her son really was urging her. And, that's where you have to meet people with where they are. For whatever reason, she wasn't ready to do it yet. And then it took her that long in the process. And, even when buyers are beginning their search, a lot of them start on the internet and they start kind of casually looking, and a year goes by and they're starting to think, you know what, I think I really want to buy something, or I really want to move into something new, or whatever it is. And it doesn't happen overnight. It does take people time to kind of make decisions.
Yeah.
Everyone's time frame is a little bit different, but yeah, it was a pretty amazing process, I thought.
Well, and again, I agree. It does take time. You have to kind of meet them where they are. But again, when you add the financial component, and it can be a significant financial decision for most, if not all people.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, it's not something you need to go into too quickly or too lightly.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You were willing and able to kind of hold her hand and walk her through the process and get her to a point where she was comfortable making a decision that put her in a much better place.
Right. And you know what, I did want to, you mentioned transactional, and that is such a great question that you mentioned. And my business, my intention is for this not to be transactional. It's about becoming friends with people, and I'm in their life, right? I mean, I am in their life for a process, for a time, a season, and you end up learning so much about them. And so for me, I don't really look at it as a transaction. Matter of fact, I don't look at that at all. And occasionally, sometimes people just want it to be a transaction, and that's okay if that's what they want to do, and that's fine too. But it's not for me.
Right. Well, and that actually is a beautiful segue into my next question. What's a common misconception about your work that that you'd like to address? And maybe it's kind of this. It's not as transactional as many people think, but maybe there's something else. What's something that maybe people don't quite understand or often have a misconception around related to the work you do and the value that you bring to the table?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and thanks for asking it. To me, what comes to mind is I think there might be some thinking out there that all we have to do, or all we do, is put a sign in the yard and sell a house and go to closing. And I always hear people wanting to jump into real estate. And to me, it's just not like that. It's a business. I mean, I'm running a business. I have people that work for me, and I run a profit and loss, and I send all my info to my CPA. And it's, when someone hires me, it's the least thing is putting a sign in the yard. It goes back to that whole goals and consultation and what are we looking to do? And let me tell you about the process, and the inspection will be coming up. And let me tell you about the market today and the complexity that I have never seen, the complexity of offers in today's market in the 9.5 years that I've been doing this. When you hire a really great agent, they are doing a lot of things on your behalf and in tandem with you, in talking you through it and what is the best offer to take today. So to me, I guess that's just the misnomer, is to put a sign in the yard and we're done with our job, and that's far from it.
And on those lines, have you found that some of your clients are actually surprised by the level of engagement and the totality of what you do? I've got to imagine that if someone says, like if I said to my neighbor, hey, you should reach out to Tara if you're considering, a real estate transaction, and they might have, share some of those same misconceptions. Are your clients ever kind of like really shocked? Like, I didn't know it was this involved.
Yes, they are. And I have several people tell me, I could never do what you do, and I can never do this job. And it's intense, and it's right now with the market, and it is a seller's market, and it's an intense market right now. And many of my clients feel like they're kind of married to me in some way. And then, then we get separated when we're at closing, because you don't have to talk to me every day. So, right. But, I say that jokingly, but, sometimes we don't talk every day. But yeah, I think that they're very surprised. And I think that my clients who do business with me are 100% confident when we go to closing, they know exactly what's going on. And that's how I want them to feel. And I want them to walk away knowing that either one, we got them the most money, or whatever the goal was that we needed to get for them, they are crystal clear that we did. So, it goes back to education for me.
Yeah. Well, I hear you describe the holistic nature of everything you do for your clients. I'm not shocked to hear that maybe they're often surprised at everything you do for them in helping them with their real estate. But let me flip that around the other way. What's surprised you most about your work in real estate?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, Russ, as I was thinking about some of this last night in preparation, pivoting, it's kind of overused word. Many businesses, small businesses, entrepreneurs like ourselves had to pivot last year with COVID and what was going on, and how could we adjust with our clients and help them through this, pandemic while purchasing and selling real estate. So you had to do a pivot there really quickly. And then we're doing, everything's kind of status quo. And then all of a sudden, January, February this year comes about, and we're in this gigantic seller's market. It's been a seller's market, right? And then it just exploded into this new level. And I had to pivot and get ready and do it differently again, because I had to adjust, and I had to let my clients know how we are having to adjust to the market. And you're adjusting different ways. Depends if you're the buyer or if you're the seller. So that's been the surprise this year is that that it's exploded, and we make changes and we adjust so that we can best represent our clients.
Definitely not business as usual these days, huh?
Not business as usual.
Yeah. Well, so maybe take just a moment and share kind of your thoughts about the market. And I'm not looking for any kind of prediction or prognostication, but clearly the market is kind of going gangbusters, especially for those that are interested in selling. But of course, the flip side of that is if you sell, you have to turn around and buy, and you're probably buying at inflated prices. So just maybe kind of share your thoughts about the market and maybe what's driving this, and is there something out in the future that maybe has to happen for things to kind of maybe settle back down, or kind of blow some steam blows out of this market, or is this kind of the new normal for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, well, I have a couple thoughts, and all of those are kind of great questions packed together. So I will say jokingly that I have never had a client go homeless. Okay. So if we're selling their house, I do another piece of legwork that I do when you're my buyer client is searching and calling and looking for a property that's not currently on the market, which most people don't even think that a realtor would do that. And a lot of them don't. And I think it's just my cold calling background from corporate America. But we got to find a new house, and locate one, right, for my selling clients. And so that's one thing that I do every day. Matter of fact, it's on my calendar and time block to make those phone calls to find an unlisted property for one of my sellers selling their house. Another comment that I have is I will use myself as an example. I know without a doubt, today's market right now is the best time for anyone considering selling their house to do so now. I know it. And I know it so much as we even started the phone call. I purchased my own house. I closed on my own house back in April. And do I think that I bought it at the high and that we're going to experience the turbulence we experienced back in 2008 and 2009? So it's a completely different set of variables that are going on in today's world that were not going on back then, which was the inflation of the mortgages and more of the lending process that had a major breakdown. And that's what happened. And this isn't my crystal ball. This is just economists, national and international economists, that this market is not looking like it's going to settle down. So from my perspective, I have a new house and I also have a low interest rate. So to me, it kind of offset. Additionally, Russ, this is what I think. I personally, I was in multiple offers. I know how to win multiple offers. I won it for myself. I personally paid a lot over list price. And in my mind, like I tell my sellers or my buyers, you got to be comfortable with what your offer's going to be. And you're going to have to be okay if it doesn't appraise. And that means you're going to bring extra money to the table. And this is all in the consultation, right? Set the stage before we get there so they can think about this and make the best decision for themselves. And you know what? I ended up getting my own house appraised at the high price that I got it at. And I will consider, I know that it will continue to go up in price. I mean, they're expecting millions of people to move into Atlanta over the next 5 years. The inventory is still really low, and people have to find housing. So I feel really good about my decision, and I support my decision based on this is how I educate my clients too. So I took my own advice on that.
Well, yeah, I think it's great that you can speak not just experientially as a realtor working with clients, but having just gone through the process in the midst of this, for lack of a better word, kind of crazy real estate market. So I appreciate that perspective. I think that's helpful. So Tara, when you have clients, whether they're sellers or buyers or even investors, I've got to imagine this doesn't happen often. But in the event that someone elects not to take your advice or to kind of go a different route, what would you say prevents people from kind of following your advice or relying on your expertise when dealing with real estate?
How do I handle if they choose to maybe kind of go at their own way?
Not how you handle it. I'm wondering, like, if you could get inside a client's mind that has said, "Hey, Tara, I understand what you're telling me, but I think I should do this," or I know you're telling me to offer list plus 15%, but I think I should offer, list plus or minus X. Like, if you could get into those people's minds, what do you think maybe prevents them from accepting your advice or thinking they know better, or whatever the case may be? That's kind of what I'm wondering.
Yeah, I mean, asking your buyer to put in an offer $55,000 over list price, and quite frankly, I've heard, and I have not had this experience, but I'm in some masterminds. Some people at the over $1 million, people are putting in over $100,000 higher than list price. So it's a lot of money, and I get it. I get it. And part of the consultation that I have is, let's talk about what we need to expect you to consider doing, putting in an offer. And this, again, is upfront before we start really showing houses, because if someone says, Tara, I'm not comfortable putting in anything more than sales price, I think that's really great that they know themselves so well, and this may not be the best time for them to purchase a house and get into the real estate market, because the last statistic that came out in April for the Atlanta market is that sales price was 7 to 10% over the list price on average. So and sometimes, Russ, people may not believe you have to go a certain amount that high. And you really have to help them get clarity. Does that mean you want to try it once and really see? Or do you think that maybe this isn't the best time? Or maybe you're just ready to go for it. And it's different. There's a spectrum of answers there. And that's something that I can help people flesh out.
Yeah.
I think also showing them, I have statistics, quarterly and monthly statistics. It's kind of boring to look at for people who don't like numbers, but it gives you the statistics of what the market is doing at a granular level. And sometimes when people say, oh, wow, I see that one 115% over list price. Sometimes people just have to see that data and then they're okay with it.
Right. And hearing you explain that, I also wonder if it's really just, if it's also potentially the need to reset expectations. Like, let's say somebody comes to you and says, Tara, I want to buy a house and my budget's $500,000, but that houses are going 7 to 10% above that. Mm-hmm. So 10% is 550. So maybe they actually need to lower their budget to 450 to allow them to, bid up a little bit higher above asking if they're willing to. So
that is so perfect. That's exactly the advice that I would give my client. If their budget's 500,000, we can't look at the top of 500,000. They're probably going to love the house that's listed at 499, but it's going to sell higher. So to stay within someone's budget, which is important to me because they're telling me that's important to them. And this is, again, done up front. We already know they've been pre-qualified and we know what they're comfortable with spending. Then we'll base what they're comfortable spending on and we'll lower that sales price. And a lot of times there's a little bit of a sticker shock if someone has to go down to 450 when they really want to be at 500. But the only way really to play the game is you're going to have to go in at 450 and then use that extra money for the escalation in your offer. Price escalation.
Yeah, we could probably actually dive pretty deep down this rabbit hole, but I think the whole psychology and decision making around financial matters, a primary home being a great example is just fascinating. Like because it's not clearly the money's a key component, but it's not the only component. I mean, I think there's elements of ego, like, I want to be in a house that I'd be proud to have my family and friends come visit. Mm-hmm. I want to be in, the right or the best school district for my children if they're, public schools, things like that. So I think there's just and you clearly know this better than I do when it comes to real estate, but I think it's fascinating to think about all of the elements that go into making a real estate decision, because I see some of those similar elements come to the surface all the time when I'm working with my clients doing financial planning and investment management, things like that. So I just find it fascinating.
And I think my clients are doing a great job when they're talking to you as their wealth advisor about, letting you know, first off, hey, I'm looking to sell, I'm going to buy a new house. And can we talk about budget and can we look at my portfolio prior to me doing that? And I think your position and job function is as important as the mortgage lender. And you're right about a lot of different factors that go into one making a decision. And to me, I always start with the money because as long as someone's comfortable with their finances, then the other pieces start to fall in line. But the price will essentially dictate the location and area, particularly right now. So I think it's great when your clients go to you first and let you know what they're planning on doing. And you can help them from the financial and see things that I'm not going to see as clearly as you are, because that's what you do for a living,
Right. Yeah. I appreciate that. But I just think it's, I think about considering all the facets that go into, any financial decision, but certainly one as big as a home. I think it's just endlessly interesting to think about and to discuss. So let's say, Tara, let's say we both went to Furman. Let's say a Furman student, let's say a junior or a senior at Furman approached you and said, "Hey, Tara, I've heard a little bit about what you do, and I'm very interested in real estate." And they're interested in getting into real estate, whether that's being a realtor or on the finance side or something else along those lines. What advice or guidance would you give to maybe a student that's interested in learning more or potentially pursuing a career in real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fantastic, and I do have conversations with Furman alumni and those graduates. So I'm actually doing that these days. And I think it's great to get in at an early age. I got in at maybe the middle part of my career. So would I do it again and at an earlier age? Yeah. I was a little nervous about making that transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. And if they're already knowing that they're an entrepreneur and want to do a small business, I think it's fantastic to start when you're that young, because that's the time to kind of go at it. And if you make mistakes, it's okay, and it's a great way to grow. So I'm all for it. I'm always into speaking to younger. Not just at Furman, in the Atlanta area, and helping them with any career path or wanting to have a discussion about a career path. I think that's fantastic. They're doing a great service to themselves.
Yeah. I always, I'm always interested to kind of hear people's thoughts on that question. I guess it's kind of an indirect way of also saying, like, if you knew then what you know now. And so, and it sounds like you would have jumped in with both feet earlier if you maybe had the opportunity to do it over again. So I think that's, I don't think there's any more of a ringing endorsement that you can give for your chosen work than that. So that's pretty cool. Tara, when you, so this is Women's Retirement Radio. Virtually everything I do revolves around retirement for women and their families. When you think of the word retirement, personally, what comes to mind for you?
Arizona comes to mind for me. Let's see, my son is 6. So I had my son a little bit later in life, and he'll be going, well, we got another 14, well, maybe a little bit less than that. But yeah, I mean, for me personally, Russ, I have been planning for retirement. I didn't really realize I was planning for retirement when I started my first job at the Coca-Cola company eons ago. However, over the years, as you even know better than I do, everything kind of compounds. Your finances compound, and over the past 10 years, I've been really focused on my retirement and what I'm going to do. And this is how I see things. So if my son chooses, he'll go to college, and I'll head to Arizona. I love that weather. And I will still be working probably as a business coach in real estate and running my real estate team. And at the same time, I'll be doing it knowing that I don't really have to if I don't want to. I mean, to me, that's the best of retirement: continuing to work, helping others, grow others, and you really don't have to worry about any of the finances or financials coming in.
Yeah.
If you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like another way to think of what you just described as kind of like work optional, which
yes,
which I think a lot of people love that idea, where they can continue to work if they want to, or maybe they can pursue something that they find maybe more fulfilling than what they're doing right now. But it's purely on a if I want to basis, which I think is great. So something you said. So if you did relocate to Arizona, when your son's maybe getting ready to potentially go to college, did you say that you anticipate continuing to manage your local real estate team from Arizona?
Well, at that point, I would like to have someone take over the position of running the team, where I can be remote, and I have a really great person who is running Winslow Home Professionals. And Keller Williams, where I reside, is all over, and I could possibly go into some position over in Arizona. I think the sky's the limit on that piece of it. But my hometown is here in Atlanta, Russ. I grew up here, and I'd like to still have a good stronghold here in Atlanta, because it's, I grew up here, so it's important. The city, I love the city. I love the city.
Yeah. I was just curious. Like, I didn't know if with technology, and I'm not familiar with like real estate regulations and who can practice as a realtor where, and, if that's jurisdictional or whatever. I just didn't know if you would have the option to continue to be plugged into and work with your current Keller Williams team, even if you're on the other side of the country. And it sounds like you could, maybe in a reduced capacity.
Right. And you can get your license. So, you continue to keep your license current in the state that you reside. And if you move to a different state, then you can get your license and study for the exam in that state that you move to.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. Well, it sounds like you've got a pretty clear picture of where you're heading for retirement. And going back to your earlier comments around the value of clarity and understanding what a buyer or seller is looking to get out of a real estate transaction. I think clarity is really key, perhaps above all else. And I think the clarity that you have around your own retirement, ideas around retirement, I think is really refreshing. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I think that's
from you, the expert. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, well, it sounds pretty exciting. So, kind of continuing on the retirement theme. So in your opinion and from your perspective, what's one of the biggest challenges women face in particular when they're planning for retirement?
I guess probably the biggest thing that I see when I work with women in real estate is they don't realize their brilliance and their capacity to take on their retirement themselves. And really, and I'm not saying all women at all, and I don't mean that. I think that everyone has the capacity to take themselves where they want to go in their retirement. And I look to empower anybody who wants to be shown the way or put on the path or needing support or whatever they need to do that. So I like to be one of those women who help women.
Well, and kind of part B of the same question. So how do you see your work in real estate impacting women and their families as they kind of look ahead or plan to make the transition into retirement? And I think you've kind of already addressed it in some manner, but I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that it goes back to building wealth in real estate, and someone is building wealth when they purchase real estate, and they're building wealth if they choose to sell it too, and they can put it in other places. So I think that that's one thing. I think from the whole financial point of view, I think that there's a lot of different avenues someone can go down in the real estate market, including investing. I have investors right now who continue to purchase properties for long-term gain, and the rental market is huge, and we haven't even touched on that, but goodness. So there's a lot of different avenues for women and their families to build wealth, and you can do it pretty quickly in real estate. So it doesn't have to be thinking, oh, it's going to take me 10 years to get to XYZ in terms of wealth. I mean, you can do that today. And that's the real benefit and motivation, right? You could start today and build wealth for yourself.
Yeah. I think that's great. And I think that, again, real estate's clearly not my forte, but it is yours. And I think that's opens up another interesting avenue for women or their families to consider as they're kind of looking at not just their retirement plan, but kind of their overall financial plan and decision making. So I think that's a great perspective, and I think that hopefully will kind of help open some of our listeners' minds to the choices and options they have as they're looking to plan for their own futures.
Yeah. Yes.
So
Excellent.
Tara, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying I am in agreement with you. That's excellent.
Yeah. So, right now you've got a real estate team that you're running, busy with that. You've got a 6-year-old son, and on top of everything else, you're moving right now, literally right now. But let's step back and imagine that you've got an hour or two all to yourself. And I'm not sure how often that happens, if at all. But if you had an hour or two all to yourself, how do you most enjoy spending kind of your time when you've got the time?
My time, that hour or two will be at the spa. And if it has to be a local spa, it will be Natural Body, and I will go get my massage, my 90-minute massage and pedicure. If I can manage to eke out a weekend, it will be one of my favorite spas in Arizona, in Scottsdale, which is, I just love being there. So that's how I relax, and or at the pool under the sun with a bunch of sunscreen on, but near the pool in the sun. That is the way I like to relax.
Well, that sounds like the way to relax. So that's nice. As we start to wrap up our conversation today, Tara, if there were just one thing that our listeners could take away from our discussion today, what would you want that one thing to be?
Yeah, the one thing would be, if you're considering selling and wanting to take advantage of the market, and you have some concerns or questions, or you're not sure the path that you would take, reach out to me. We can do a consultation over the phone just to help you flesh it out. And it may be that is for you to stay where you are. And that may be the best decision. But just to have a conversation instead of kind of swirling it around in your head, just reach out and we can set that up. And that will help you.
Well, I think that's a super generous offer. And with that in mind, let's say someone does want to reach out, Tara, and have a conversation. What's the best way for people to get in touch or learn more about you and your team and your services?
Yeah, I'm online at Winslow Home Professionals, TaraWinslowHomes.com. I'm in LinkedIn, I'm in Facebook, Instagram, or you can email me at tara.winslow@kw.com, and it will come right to me, and we can set up some time from there.
Great. And we'll be sure to include all of Tara's links and websites into the show notes, so people can have that at hand if they do want to reach out. Tara, this has been fun. I always enjoy our conversations. And
likewise. Thanks, Russ.
I think this has been super, or will be super illuminating for our listeners. So I appreciate your willingness to jump on and do this podcast with me in the midst of moving and packing boxes and everything that you've got going on right now. Before we wrap it up, anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to touch on that maybe we didn't address?
I just wanted to thank you again, and thank you to who is listening out there. And I'm happy to be of service and just have a conversation. And I wish everyone well in the summertime months too. Should be a fun summer with some of the changes going on in our world right now.
Yeah, let's certainly hope so. Well, thanks again, Tara. This has been great, and thanks everyone out there for listening. Again, this is Russ Thornton, Women's Retirement Radio, and look forward to catching up with you on our next episode. It's Russ again, and before you go, I want to provide a brief disclosure. You should consult a financial advisor familiar with the specific circumstances of your unique financial situation before making any financial decisions. Nothing in this broadcast constitutes a solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. Any mentioned rates of return are historical or hypothetical in nature and are not a guarantee of future returns. I'm a financial advisor and an investment advisor representative of WealthCare Capital Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor based in Richmond, Virginia. The views discussed in this podcast are my own and may not be consistent with or represent those of WealthCare Capital Management.